A very good afternoon once again, everyone. I know we are running a little behind schedule, so I'll try to keep it crisp. Won't stand between you and lunch. So, thank you very much once again, my fellow panelists, for joining me on stage. Uh, I think we've heard since morning. I would say three perspectives around safety, and I'd like each one of you to share your opening comments on this. So, the first perspective, everything about technology, right? We come from the automotive industry. We all know what technology does to vehicles, to safety, and so on, right? We've had multiple technologies being mandated, becoming standard across segments, and so on. So that's one angle. The second angle, which is driving this, is the regulatory framework, right? Dr. Baluja spoke about what we are doing in terms of regulation, how we can improve signages, for example, how do we educate the stakeholders. So everything from the implementation regulatory perspective, right? That's the second angle. The third angle is the customer perceptions, right? The voice of customer, what people think, what people perceive, which I also spoke about. So I'd like to hear from you, gentlemen, your opening comments on these three pillars, I would say, of the entire safety ecosystem, right? Technology, regulation, customer perception, right? So, Alok, I'd like to start with you. From an OEM perspective, right? Today you hold the maximum share in India, at least for passenger vehicles. How has your journey been from a safety perspective, right? Both from introducing new technologies and how internally you have faced, I'm sure, resistance and support as well from introducing new technologies for passenger vehicles to make driving safer. Alok, if I can request you to start with your perspectives.
Yeah. First of all, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks to the Mobility Outlook for this forum. And let me appreciate that today morning we started with Mr. Soni and Mr. Ramashankar Pandey, very passionate presentation, and then we touched the reality through Mr. Baluja. Both sides of the stories are very much there, and we stand in between as the OEM, and Mr. Soni said stakeholders, and you put first stakeholders the OEM, because it is expected everything will be done by the OEM, and many times the government bodies also say, okay, we can get the work done from the OEMs. We are right there. We are doing our best. And let me tell you that our industry, automotive industry, the most regulated automotive industry. Banod Saab is here and he has been pioneer in putting all the regulation in place, taking UN EC regulations. And there is no, I would say, mostly harmonized. And not only the safety regulation, emission regulation, all of the regulations also harmonized. I'm also part of SIAM, where I co-chair safety regulations, and it is highest on our agenda to harmonize all the regulations. So from the OEM part, I think whatever technology we can think of, that is already present in India, and technology as such is granted, but there is a cost to everything. And the most important part is safety quotient. How much we care about the safety, how much we are sensitive towards safety. What is safety for us? Safety may be different for the OEM, what we consider. Safety may be different from the supplier's perspective, but the most important part is we are looking for safety from the consumers. And I put consumers at the first. What they actually look for the safety. In the survey also, many people were not so sensitive about safety because they have something else more valuable. So the perspective from the OEM is that we have to cater to a wide variety of the consumers, looking into affordable products, looking into highly technology advanced product, and in line with what regulatory perspective is there. Regulations are the bare minimum, but we always love to exceed them. So from Maruti perspective, I would say that we brought a revolution in the automotive industry when Maruti came forward, and many things got changed, and mobility came to roads, and now we are seeing the roads are full, किसी शायर ने कहा था कि rivers खाली चलेंगी, roads भरी चलेंगी. That is exactly what is happening, and Mr. Poluja has shown various slides where roads are full and we don't even know where the lanes are. So there is not only technologies which is going to help us, but the ecosystem has to work, and ecosystem has to look into all the stakeholders, not leaving behind the consumers, not leaving behind the pedestrians. And I would also like to say that when we talk about 1.5 lakh deaths, maybe the figure is underreported, but that is the data which MORTH publish. If you look into who is actually dying on the roads, it is the vulnerable road users, the two-wheelers, the pedestrians, cyclists. The number of car occupants or the car accidents, it's going down. The data shows that. But the 67% of the population which is actually dying is from the vulnerable road user, and 43% of that is because of the two-wheelers. So we have to actually look for safety options from that perspective. If we are really caring about that 50% of accidents should be avoided or to be reduced by 2025 and zero accident by 2030, we actually pinpoint the areas where we have to take countermeasures. It's not only bringing just technology or the airbags and other things. You have to think about that. Maybe the road engineering is the area of enforcement. Maybe the another area, the road behavior and the driver trainings. They are very, very important, and we have to look from all perspective. OEMs are there. We will bring in all the technology, but certainly our job is to bring it at affordable cost. If it is not affordable, people will switch to other means of transport. They may go from four-wheelers to two-wheelers, something else. But it's our jobs to bring a technology which is affordable and is convenient to everybody. So my perspective is the safety has to be seen from a holistic point of view, not from only regulatory perspective, not from only star rating perspective. That may be some milestone which we have to cover, but looking from a wider perspective, I think the entire ecosystem needs to be looked into, and all people have to work in collaboration with each other. Right now, maybe in some silos people are working, but I think there should be a unified force through which all actions to be moved into one direction.
Absolutely. I think, Alok, you touched upon a couple of very, very important points. I'm going to come back to that later, especially on harmonization, right? Very important today to look at it from a global perspective. And one of the points you mentioned, I love, which is cost to compliance. That is something I want to ask the other panel members as well. But Alok, I believe you have a few slides to present.
I have
if I can request you to come and take a few minutes to present as well.
Okay,
Apologies
apologies
for that. I didn't realize.
Can I come over there?
Please do.
As a Maruti, we are also part of the consortium RASI, and we do a drill down on MRTS data about road accidents, and that's what I wanted to share. That reasons of road accidents and what we can do about it, how we can change it. So first, the good story. It's not that everything is bad in India. India is shining. There we've got the largest number of road network, and even the 90% of our rural India is connected. Highway construction is going at a higher pace. I remember when Kamal Nath used to be the MORTH minister, he used to say 12 kilometers per day we make the national highways. Today it is 34 kilometers per day. The kind of technology and kind of speed with which we are going and making national highways, I think it is tremendous, and we should appreciate these efforts of authorities. However, there are challenges that who has to make maintenance of these roads, upkeep of these roads. Roads can be made world class, but you have to manage them. The poor quality of the roads may be one of the reason for high accidents. And secondly, the road education, the rules which have to be followed. However, from the government side, many activities are being done. We must appreciate them and we must support them in their initiative. Now, if we look into the road accidents, not very good pictures. There are accidents, there are fires, there is accident because of the fog issues, and the road dividers, road engineering, and many more things. And we should not forget that vulnerable road user, the cyclist, which get killed, and not only the people who are in the vehicle or who met with an accident, they are killed. There are unrelated passers-by, the road user, they are also killed. So that is also one of the important parameter to be seen. From the government side, you can tackle a problem once you measure, you collect the data. If there is no data, you can't take any measures. So most important is how the data from the road accidents are being collected. MRTH publishes annual reports, and I will discuss about 2021 reports, which is already published. The 22 reports might be going to come. And government has taken a lot of initiative, like iRide is there, through which they have digitized the process, and the road accidents data is being collected. But the most important point is the data which is being collected is through the police records. And what amount of information they're collecting may not be, I would say, optimum in order to decipher the reasons. But anyway, this is the beginning. And apart from that, the data itself will not do anything unless you analyze, unless you find out deep down into that and find out where is the culprit. So there are various agencies. We have already heard IRTA, ICAT is there, and RASI, because we are part of the consortium. We work with many other manufacturer and technology partners and drill down this data. And from this data, we try to reconstruct accidents and find out how this accident could be avoided. And if I go into road accident data, this is from the published report. 4.2 lakh accident occurred in 21, which led to approximately 1.5 lakh deaths. Numbers may be underreported, but this is the data which is available. And there are many more serious injuries. They might not have resulted into a fatal accident, but they are serious injuries. That is also an important point to be touched here. And 67% of the fatalities are in the age group 18 to 45, which is economically, I would say, the age where you are contributing to the GDP. If such a population is dying, I think its economic value is much more. But if you look into the total fatalities, and we have taken out the COVID year 2020, where there was a dip. So we have taken out that, and without that, if you see, there is a rise in the accident data. On the right side, we try to make where the accidents are happening and which class of the vehicles are getting affected. So vulnerable road users, which is the cyclists, two-wheelers, and the pedestrian, they are on the higher side. Almost 67% of the data shows that they are. And if you look into the four-wheeler categories, car categories, the data is showing that the accidents are or the fatalities are coming down. Now, if we look into the MRTH report 2021, we try to find out the type of accidents, type of collisions, head-on collisions, hit-and-run cases. They are the maximum contributors in accidents, and two-wheeler occupants, which are having the 43% share on the road accidents. Around 40% of the vehicles which were there in the accidents were 10 years or older. So maybe the upcoming regulation or the safety features may not be there in those vehicles. So we will see the data of whatever regulatory changes have brought technology upgradation in the vehicles. Maybe the data will come in coming years, and that is the point where we have to see whether we have done a right step or not. Pedestrian accounts for maximum fatalities among the non-motorized users. But this data doesn't have the unrelated users who actually died on the road, who may be the passerby, who are the other road users. They are also one of the biggest category of people dying. Going into further reasons, rash driving or overspeeding, that came out as one of the highest reasons through this data, where people might be driving at a higher speed or maybe rash. I will not say higher speed, but they may be driving rash, not following the lanes, not following the road signs, maybe driving on the wrong side. Maybe the road engineering is a culprit for that, because there is no U-turn or there is no passage for them to go to the place where they want to go. And driving on the wrong side was another reason, and driving under intoxications. use of cell phone. There is a lot of distraction nowadays. Cell phone is one of them, and red light jumping. So we don't honor the road signals or the road signs. Fatalities, if we see, we found that 84% of the fatality in the four-wheeler were where they were unbelted. Seatbelt is given, but people don't wear the seatbelt, and it is really dangerous in that condition. Even if the airbags are there, if the seatbelts are not worn, it is not going to save lives. So unbelted was 84% of the deaths. I think slides not very visible. Let me put a maybe now this is, sorry for that. In case of two-wheelers, usage of helmet, 67% are unhelmeted. So these are the two, I would find that low-hanging fruits which needs to be taken care of, that if you belt when you drive a vehicle or you put a helmet, most of the fatalities could be avoided. Now, if you there is I think we don't have the data about the front row or the rear row, but in the front row, the drivers and the co-drivers, the occupancy of seatbelt fasten has improved, but on the rear side is abysmally low. So regulations like seatbelt reminders, they are going to come, and in some of our vehicles already been implemented. So this is just to assist, but even if the occupant don't want to put seatbelts, I think we need to educate people about it. Now coming to the, I just try to draw a benchmark with EO. If we take the regulations directly from the UNEC, may not be targeting the kind of scenario which we have in India. So we, while making regulations or while taking countermeasures, we have to be very, very conscious about what is the Indian condition. Are these regulations going to stop accidents, road accidents, which we have in our road scenario, where is a mix of traffic, there is a heterogeneous, where roads are used not only for movement, but for many other purposes. So we have to look from that point of view. This is just to show that how much sensitive we are towards road accidents. In COVID, maybe again the figures are underreported, but whatever data is there, the COVID deaths were less than the number of deaths which we have on roads. So sensitivity, awareness, that is also, I think, on the road safety is not there, which needs to be improved. And the socio-economic impact of road accident, this is again from the public news, that 3 to 5% of GDP every year gets wasted in road crashes and socio-economic impact. But more than that, the impact of a road accident on the right-hand side, which we have written, is the loss or disablement of breadwinner, suffering to the family and the child education. The whole family gets devastated if the earning member of the family gets serious injury or die. Productivity loss, disability, and many of we know debt crisis also come, and you have to sell everything in whatever position you have. And obviously the damage to the property and damage to the vehicle, and sometimes the vehicle is the livelihood. So if the vehicle itself is lost, you lose your earning mode. And certainly the legal cases also go up. So, however, what efforts government and we all of us can do, I don't say only thing has to be done by government, but all of us are part of it. So legislation is already there, infrastructure is improving, engineering, road engineering and vehicle engineering, both have to be done. And the most important part is awareness. I think since morning we have been listening that awareness is something from the very grassroots level. It has to be improved, and it has to be again and again reinforced. In order to meet the UN Decade of Action Plan, which India is also signatory, I think this is an important step which we cannot miss. So 4 E's: engineering, enforcement, education, and emergency. All have to be met. I would like to spend some time on emergency. The trauma care. Good SMART-T rule is already there, but we can save life if we quickly attend to the injury there on the road, and if we can have a mechanism through which you can take the injured person to the hospital and give him a treatment, then that can be avoided. I will share that one example where in Japan how it is being handled. Emergency care, engineering, enforcement, education, all these 4 E's have to be, I think, has to be taken. That's what I would say, the ecosystem. Driver training simulators, other things very, very important. And automated driving test centers, Maruti is already, as a CSR, has also contributed. And obviously, the awareness about the safety program through the car rating. So various technologies, they are already in discussion, active safety like ADAS, which are just a assistance to the driver, but driver has to be very, very conscious about the safety, then only these systems can help. Seat belt, I find it is the most affordable kind of safety feature which has been given, but it can function only if you with many others new car assessment program across the world. So and this will also demonstrate new technology. Safety assist technology is one of the parameter which will come into this. All other countries where such new car assessment program is there, they have utilized this forum to experiment with the new technologies, with new safety features, so that it becomes acceptable to the consumers instead of mandating anything. This slide I owe to Ramashankar Pandey. He keeps telling about the Kali Billi and Nimu Mirchi. This is very interesting point, and I used to find out why you always say about Kali Billi. Kali Billi is a belief that Kali Billi रास्ता काट गई तो रुक जाओ, लेकिन लाल बत्ती है तो रुको नहीं, क्रॉस कर दो. तो ये जनरेशन टू जनरेशन हमें बताया गया कि काली बिल्ली, बहुत लोग मानते हैं अभी भी इसको, बट आई फील this is a kind of story awareness which has been taught to us, but we should also be taught about if the red light is there, it is stop, look and go. We should not just avoid. Sometimes we feel लाल बत्ती है, ये तो लाल ही रहेगी, green होगी ही नहीं, and we don't wait because some red lights are not working. But I think this is important. And Nimbu Mirchi is a safety net, but safety net we have given in the vehicle with the seat belt or the helmet, so it has to be worn. So these two things certainly has to be going through the awareness and education from the very beginning, from the school level or maybe the home, from the home itself. This is the last slide. Sorry, I've taken a little bit of more time. This is a way forward, and I owe this slide to Jama because in that forum, when we asked about what should be the framework, they said development of a robust road and vehicle engineering framework is very, very important, where the evaluation effectiveness of all the measures which you have taken to be done. It's not about just bringing many regulation and making all things available in your vehicle. You have to measure whether they are actually helping, they are actually effective. So understand the cause. The causes could be human, which is driver, road engineering, the vehicle itself, and the management. The most important part is the management, how entire thing is being managed. That should also be. Enforcement is a part of it, legislation is part of it. And once you implement everything, you have to set your priorities. You cannot just bring and enforce a technology, okay, give this thing, then only we will be safe, but there could be multiple options. So it has to be qualitative and quantitative approach. We should consider it, the measures and do the pre-evaluation and selection of measures. I think this approach Japan has followed. They have been quite successful, and we have to utilize this approach in order to make some strategy for Indian road scenario, maybe policy, infra, the behavior of the driver as well as the road users, and the management of entire thing may make us safer. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alok, for that wonderful perspective. I think, coming from an OEM, it just shows the importance that we place or that we need to place on safety as a whole, right? So Uday, I want to come to you. Something very unique, right? You come from an e-mobility perspective, and when we talk about electric light commercial vehicles, whether it is 3-wheelers or 4-wheelers, it's very clear that chassis-based technologies like ABS, ESP, AEB or front collision warning, everything is very well documented. But one of the key areas which is not well documented is still occupant protection, right? Driver protection or co-driver protection. From an e-mobility or an e-LCV perspective, how do you see this evolving? And how do you see Omega Seiki Mobility, for example, taking that step to improve not only safety as a whole, but specifically for a driver and a co-driver? What are your thoughts there?
Thank you. First of all, great to be here, and some serious heavy-duty data last hour I've heard, I think it's important to understand that, from my perspective, everybody in this country is in a hurry.
Yeah.
I think we're all in a hurry. I think, I see everybody needs to be somewhere very quick. I don't know whether we get there or not, but we definitely are, whether it's this Kali Billy or there's this green light or blue light or whatever light you want to talk about. I think, again, I think it EV, whether it's alternate energy, green energy, it's not just EV, but, hydrogen. As we go forward, OSM continually believes that, I think, we will put airbags and we'll put all the, the safety, we'll come up with a new class that at the, as a driver feels drowsy, sends messages. But I think the most important part, and one of my good friends here, right there from Tata will agree, is the driver, and I'm talking about commercial vehicles. I'm focused on commercial because that creates the majority of the pollution in this country. And thank you, from what I see, CNG is going to be out and a lot of this other stuff is going to be out, especially in this state. Hopefully we'll have some leadership here left, and not be somewhere else lately. But what I was going to say is that making sure those drivers, those men and women, who are actually driving these vehicles actually get paid something, right? We want to provide BMWs and Mercedes, and we want to provide all of this. But we don't want to do is pay those drivers. And I'll tell you, how many of you actually think your kids or the future of this, any of your kids' kids or relatives want to be drivers? I'd say none, because we don't pay them, we don't give them security, we don't give them anything. They're just, I think, until we, it's a root cause analysis. Every driver is blowing lights, every driver is doing things which are completely non-safe. Until we change the root cause of drivers, we give them that sort of training. I think, if you give somebody a vehicle that they're just absolutely not incentivized to use, or they don't have that sort of aptitude, I don't think anything is going to change, right? And I think, when we talk about building this country, we've got the vehicles, we've got the technology. Let me be clear. वो 700 crore भाई बहन, they live in the tier 2, 3, 4 cities, and they don't have that capability to move. So I think there has to be an OSM on the mobility side as well as on the vehicle side. I want to make sure that those drivers are incentivized, remunerated, built. And I think all of the things that Sir showed on that presentation with, that many deaths, that many problems, yes, and all the stop signs. But I think we've got to go down to the root cause. We've got to start working. We've got to build all of those. But if we don't incentivize the drivers, we don't lift that, we don't give them the training, I don't think, the driver turnover is so high in the logistics business. It is crazy because people are not feeling that there's a real future in that. Yeah. And so I think this is something, I think safety is extremely important. But if we don't take care of that, I don't think we got any solution.
I think that's a very good point you make, Uday, especially the point on drivers, right? So Ramanthan, I want to come to you from a commercial vehicle perspective. As ZF Group, you're such an integral part of the entire CV ecosystem, right? So the point Uday made. So Uday, correct me if I'm wrong. So essentially, what you said can be put under the bracket of dignity of profession, right? So Ramanthan, from a commercial vehicle perspective, right? Like he rightly said, none of our future generations, ever want to consider driving as a profession, right? So from a CV perspective, how do you see the entire safety angle being played out? You saw a lot of videos where trucks are invariably involved in any fatal road accident, right? Ramashankar spoke about that. Lighting, underrun bars, safety, and so on. So as a supplier, how do you see the role of ZF Group or a supplier in the co-development of technologies, right? Not so much as a supplier, you're not a supplier anymore, but to co-develop technologies, safety technologies for commercial vehicles and OEMs. How do you see your role there?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Mobility Outlook team, for this wonderful opportunity and this wonderful platform. I will touch upon commercial vehicle industry like you. So when you see the road accidents, almost 35% of the road accidents are caused by commercial vehicles, the trucks and buses. When we see the regulation harmonization, so Alok talked about regulation, safety regulation harmonization. If ZF tracks the regulation in terms of safety, emissions, and connectivity and all, in emissions, we have moved very far away. Like, for example, we are almost on par with Europe or US or any advanced countries. In connectivity, we are actually ahead of the regulations, where some of the countries don't have the regulation, but we still have the regulation. But in terms of safety, unfortunately, we are lagging in regulation. ABS, you showed in the picture, it took 20 years after Europe made it as a regulation to come to India. ZF, earlier WAPCO, made lot of efforts. Even before ABS came as a regulation, we retrofitted 40,000 trucks with the ABS and did lot of work, safety drive in our test track. Then there was a lot of awareness which was created and it became a regulation. ABS is only a gateway of technology, safety technology. Building on this ABS, there is a stability control, there is an AEB, front collision warning, blind spot warning, vulnerable user protection. All these technologies are yet to come. Stability control has already been made as a regulation. It is 10 years now. Still, it has not been made as a mandate in India. It has been made as a mandate in buses, but the situation is pathetic because it is supposed to be applicable for 70% of the buses, but the implementation is only 10% of the buses because there is a loophole in the regulation which says the regulation says it is not applicable for city buses, but all fully built buses. But the OEMs escape the regulation saying, I am only selling a chassis to some bus body builder and he is liable for implementation. And the actual result is only 10% of the buses of the applicable category is being implemented with the stability control. In tractor trailer, ABS is made as a regulation 6 years back. Today, 6 years later, the implementation rate is only 23%. So, enforcement is one of the major factor in regulation, in the improving the safety. The second point I want to touch upon is Uday touched upon rightly on the drivers, commercial vehicle drivers especially. Many of the commercial vehicle drivers, they don't go home for almost 50% of the month, and they are working for almost 20 hours a day. And many of the accidents, if you see in the commercial vehicle, the three major reasons for the accidents are driver distraction, weather conditions, and then the poor maintenance of the vehicle. All these can be addressed through technologies. There are technologies which are well developed, mature technologies are available, which are applicated in various countries, which can avoid these accidents. Like driver distraction, we have different type of technologies like a camera facing the driver, and which can see the eyeball, whether he is sleeping or whether he is talking over phone. Or you can have non-camera methods also, like a steering wheel. You can put a sensor, and the way the driver is driving, it can sense the fatigue and gives the alarm. There are tachographs which are available, which can regulate the amount of the hours of working of the driver. Like in advanced countries, a driver has to take a rest after 5 hours of continuous driving. And these tachographs monitor, and these technologies are available there. And there are also driver assistance technologies. Like every year during the winter, we see news items like in that express highway, due to fog, so many 10 vehicles are colliding with one behind another and other thing. There are radar technologies which are actually made as a regulation in Europe 10 years ago, and these proven technologies are available which can sense and see the road even when the human eye cannot see, and it can break it automatically. There are technologies available for blind spot reduction and all. So, technology-wise, it is available. Nothing needs to be developed. It has to be only localized
Exactly.
in India. It is only the willingness of the government and OEM in particular to implement this technology.
Absolutely spot on. So I think technology is available from a global perspective. How do we bring it to the Indian? How do we adapt it to the Indian context? So Madhusudan, I want to come to you. I wanted to touch upon a couple of points. One, on the harmonization part, which Alok and Ramanthan also spoke about. From ICAT's perspective, right? So you play an instrumental role, if I may say that, in putting together a framework that many of the mobility ecosystem stakeholders need to follow, right? Harmonization, one of them, and also affordability of technologies, right? We have always seen that it does not make sense to just blindly bring in global technologies, put them on Indian vehicles, right? May or may not work. How do we see affordability of technologies playing a bigger role, and how do you see ICAT's role in promoting the localization perspective? And where do you see the role of ICAT changing or evolving in terms of safety, ecosystem, and reducing deaths overall? What are your perspectives there?
Thank you. First of all, good afternoon good afternoon everyone, and thank you Mobility Outlook for giving this opportunity to speak on this relevant topic of safety. But we haven't spoken much about security. But we have to first overcome this problem of safety, then comes the security. Okay, so my perspective on as far as the regulatory roadmap is concerned, or the availability of regulations in India is concerned, we are almost at par with Europe. There is no issue as far as the readiness of India in terms of regulatory framework is concerned. That is point number one. From the technology perspective, all the technologies are available. And of course, there has been a lot of companies and stakeholders who have been working on the technologies to make them affordable, and also to make them suitable for the Indian road and traffic conditions. Very recently, we were working on this ADAS regulations for India, and we had been deliberating and with all the stakeholders, because the technology is available in Europe. For example, the lane keep assist, or maybe AEBS, etc. So all those technologies need to be relooked from the Indian perspective, because Indian road conditions, Indian driving patterns, Indian driving behaviors, everything is entirely different from what is at the other parts of the world and in the developing countries. Mr. Baluja has shown a lot of videos to us in the morning. I mean, it was a very typical situation for us when we were deliberating on the regulation on ADAS to decide how to bring in a regulation on lane keep assist for a situation in India where lanes are not visible. Right, the traffic in the urban situation is in such a condition that there's no point you will be able to exercise this lane keep assist kind of a thing, or implement that. So these kind of problems have to be relooked from the Indian perspective. But what I would like to say is that there are certain low hanging fruits which Mr. Pandey has also mentioned, Mr. Baluja has also mentioned. So before we really talk about having very strong regulations, we talk about implementing latest technologies which are cutting edge. We have to also relook into the situation which we have in this country, right? The first and foremost, which Alok San has also mentioned, I see, is my personal opinion, that most important thing is the education. Education to the new generation. We are not, as on date also, we are not able to introduce the subject of road safety, traffic, driving, etc. at the school level. Aspiring, I would say, aspirant of getting a driving license in India, who's getting about 18, achieving the age group of 18 years, do we have any system of educating him that what are the traffic laws, what are the road signs, how you should learn the driving? Most of us have learned driving either from our elder brother or sister or parents, who himself is not aware what the road signs are. If you ask me, when I learned it from my friend, he was not aware of anything, right? He taught me and I learned it. Now, if I teach someone, so I have no basic awareness of the traffic rules. I don't have any basic awareness of it. So first of all, we have to work on these aspects of bringing the education right at the school level, so that at least the new generations are aware of the traffic laws, the road safety measures, how to drive, what are the various conditions, and what are the rules they have to follow. Secondly, for the existing population whose age group is gone, that they are not going to learn anything at this point in time, the best idea is to start the system of driver rating system, penalties. There has to be some penalties in terms of insurance renewal fees. There has to be a program on driver rating, how he drives, and then based on that, the next year's insurance premium should be charged from him. How many accidents he have done, how many near misses he have done in the last 1 year. So when he goes to renew his insurance next year, there should be a system of penalty. Because this is how some improvement can be done. I was once in UK, and we were going from Birmingham to London. So when we were approaching London, I saw people driving in lane in a very disciplined way. So I was sitting, the driver who was driving the car, I asked him, well, this is a strange behavior, everybody is driving in the lane. So it's not, there's a camera there. So that camera is taking pictures of each and every car that is passing. If you could change the lane in that region, you're heavily penalized. So everybody is driving lane. So I asked why this is being implemented. Because changing lanes at when you are entering a city, there's a lot flux of traffic there. So if you change lanes there, it can lead to a lot of traffic disturbance and traffic jams, etc. So there was a study done by the UK traffic police that if people drive in lanes, then a lot of time can be saved, traffic jams can be avoided. So how did they do it? It cannot be done if you don't fix those cameras. We can't assume that people will be not changing the lanes. So what I'm trying to say is that for the existing population, to improve the situation, there has to be a system where people should be awarded or penalized depending on how they drive, how they use the road, right? And the second important thing, which is important, is that there are inspection and maintenance programs for the commercial vehicles as of now. But we were discussing in the morning with some of the friends that there are vehicles which are fitted with lights, horns, etc., etc. So all these are active safety systems which are fitted on the vehicles. Let's not talk about passive safety. Passive safety comes later. So active safety systems like headlights or horns, health of these need to be checked on a regular basis. After 5 years down the line, you can't imagine. We have done certain studies in ICAT how the performance of a headlight deteriorates over a period of 5 years. What kind of deterioration happens to a headlight once it is being used continuously for 5 years? It happens due to the degradation in the light source. It may happen because of the degradation in the lens which is there on the headlight, right? So all these active safety systems need to be inspected on a regular basis, right? Because active safety systems also play a very critical role in addressing these problems of road safety, etc. So if the active safety systems in a vehicle are performing in a good way, then there is a big likelihood that we can avoid a very big percentage of accidents which happens especially during the night driving, or maybe when you are driving on high speeds. So all these systems are going to definitely be helpful. So before we go to the state-of-the-art regulations, state-of-the-art technology, from the Indians' perspective, my personal thinking is that we should try to address the low-hanging issues, and which, if it can be addressed, a huge percentage of traffic accidents and the precious lives being lost can be considerably brought down. Thank you, sir.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Madhusudan. You raised some very interesting points. especially on ADAS, right? So, Uday, coming to you before I open up the floor for question and answer, just maybe a couple of question and answers. Uh, Continuing on what Madhusudan said, right? So when we talk about ADAS, there are essentially two sets, right? You've got infrastructure dependent technologies, like lane departure assist or lane keep assist, or infrastructure independent ones, ABS, ESP, and so on. From an electric mobility perspective, right? And he also mentioned a very interesting point on driver behavior and the insurance angle. So I know OSM has actually worked with many women drivers, especially considering that electric vehicles, they are easier to drive. So do you see a correlation in better driving behavior with women drivers especially, and the connection to the insurance angle and the cost of insurance for you? Do you see any correlations there, and do you see that could be some learning for us in terms of how you can connect insurance, ADAS, and everything with driver behavior improvement?
Absolutely. Look, I'm big on Nari Shakti. I think, I feel really, it's unfortunate. I see one lady right there in these conferences. There should be more of them, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
48% of this population is women, and I think without them, we've got no chance of being, the third largest economy in the world. And at ICAT, I see a lot of them. So Madhusudan ji, you guys doing a big, big job on that. I'm a big fan of what ICAT and Madhusudan ji and all of his teams are doing. I think absolutely. I think the EVs have made it clearly possible. Whether it's cargo, but more on the passenger, on the three-wheelers and trucks. I think it's so easy to drive those. And I think using ADAS, using what we've done with women drivers, I think even I want to really congratulate, the state of Delhi has permits even for women drivers that they have come out with. We are following up on that on passenger side, but Tamil Nadu and many other states are doing this. I think technology, whether it's ADAS, ABS, working with electric, and not just electric, green energy and sustainability. And I'm really, really glad to see, we started this journey, and Madhusudan ji, you've been a part of this, but, even Maruti has come back and said, now we're in the game. And I think this is super. Before, all the big boys and girls were saying, abhi electric hoga, nahi hoga. This is not really, and now every big OEM has joined every OEM, every supplier. So I think, including, the insurances, the driver capabilities, understanding, I think absolutely there is more room for it. I think I'm going to keep coming back to it. We've got to incentivize drivers. We've got to incentivize everybody in the ecosystem to put those people first. If you put those people first, I think all of this technology will only be used at that stage. I think otherwise, we can keep showing, Baluja ji, you've got a great, I don't know if he's still there, that presentation was great, but I think we've got to make sure that those drivers are looked after. Then
Absolutely.
Only will safety come. You can put all the safety rules. And another thing, enforcement. In the US or Europe, if you drink and drive, you're going to get tagged, right? I'm telling you how many people are getting enforced. The enforcement is an extremely important thing. I do believe that I think, we've got a great, the infrastructure is being built, the technology's there, the vehicle OEM manufacturers are there. We've got ICAT, ARI working on it. We've got suppliers. India is the third largest, 100% third largest economy in the world, and we've got an automobile market which is continually growing. Yeah. So I think the future, for all of its negativity or maybe all of these problems, and Rome wasn't built in one day, right? We've got a population that's continually growing. We've got a country that is continually growing. Look at the highways that have been built. So I think this is very possible. We've got another thing. It has to be a public-private partnership. Yep. It cannot just be. Modi ji cannot clean this country. We don't want to clean it, right? Same thing with safety. We've got to make sure it is something that is driven in our DNA. And Madhusudan ji really said, not just even from school, from grade 1, we need to have this in our curriculum so that people know safety is in the DNA Absolutely. Of every school and university.
Grassroots education, I think that's what we all talk about. So maybe we got time for 2 questions. Maybe if you can be brief, introduce yourself, direct it to one or more panelists. If we have 1 or 2 questions, we can take it. There's one there. If you can introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you. My name is Manish Irwal. I am from Gurgaon, from the Institution of Engineers India. So actually, I've been hearing about this road safety thing every morning. So actually, we are talking about basic thing is that all the technologies they are roads, whether we talk of roads or vehicles. But the main thing, as one of the panelists has highlighted, is the driver. How to change the driver behavior. So, like we are talking of the regulation and enforcement. So, like we have the now Motor Vehicles Act, new motor has heavily, increased the amount of fines, penalties. But it is resulting, it is a slow process, but it is resulting in revenue, but not the change of behavior. People are still not. So why do, like we say that we have the carrot and the stick approach, incentives and disincentives. So why don't we everybody has a driving license, drivers, so their mobile number is linked, seated. So why can't we incentivize it? Like suppose I am a good driver, every time I am stopping at the red light and I am wearing the seat belt and I am not using the mobile while driving, or I am using Bluetooth or wireless to talk. So we can have the incentive system, like we are having the penalties. So that way, if the people drivers they are incentivized that if you are a good driver and you always follow the traffic protocols, rules and regulations, then that would be an incentive for the public. Because the disincentives are not working, so maybe we can change the approach and we can start awarding good drivers or give them rating as per on their driving license or some rating star.
Absolutely.
Rating.
I think
Thank
we
you.
already have a couple of insurance companies in India who are already doing this, right? Like Uday mentioned, if you are a good driver based on your driver report card, you can actually reduce your premium as you go forward, right? So I think we already have that.
We
Hopefully,
can scale up these positive
exactly,
incentives.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Incentivize, scale up this incentivizing the drivers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Anything you want to add to that, gentlemen?
I think that's a great idea. I think there's something that needs to be done.
Yeah.
I think insurance gets cheaper. People get incentivized. I think that's a great, one of the great, programs that the government should be part of. And I think insurance companies should be part of it, maybe OEMs. So I think that's a great idea and I fully support it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I think we have just run out of time now. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's very clear. We need to look at safety from a holistic perspective, right? Not only are we looking at technologies, but also from driver behavior, education, and training. I think what Madhusudan and ICAT are doing in the form of educating drivers, training drivers with new technologies, and what Uday is doing, especially from a perspective of bringing women drivers, integrating them into the mainstream driver ecosystem, and Ramanthan, completely valid points there. How we need to treat the entire commercial vehicle ecosystem, and I'm very happy, like Uday mentioned, to see Maruti back on the EV bandwagon. I hope we will see many more electric vehicles from Maruti than we've ever seen before. So with that, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You've been a wonderful audience, and I do apologize, for the slight delay in the schedule. So thanks very much
I
once
just
again.
want to clarify one thing.
Sorry, please, Ramanthan, go ahead.
On the technology, Dr. Madhusudan told about the lane departure warning and other thing. Just want to, because since we are doing a lot of trials with a lot of leading OEMs, we have done extensively with the leading CV maker for almost 500,000 kilometers. These technologies, lane departure warning and AEB, are meant to work in national highways and express highways.
Correct.
And they can be programmed and calibrated to work at beyond a certain speed. And in our experience, we have collected 500,000 kilometers of data. 97% of the national highways and express highways have lane markings. And today the technology is also well developed with the machine learning algorithms. Even if there is a lane marking missing in some places, the technology can make an imaginary lane and still guide the vehicle. So these technologies, like many of us are talking about driver behavior and other things, we need to talk about driver assistance technologies. These technologies need to be introduced and give the toolkit to the driver and improve his performance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ramanthan. Appreciate those closing
Can
comments.
I also add?
Please, please. Maybe just 30 seconds if you can wrap it up here.
Yeah. I think we have talked about commercial vehicles, we talked about regulations, cars, it's a favorite thing, everybody talks about that. I think in India, the problem lies with the vulnerable road user, which is the two-wheelers. So we should also think about that, what kind of safety features or something we can, because two-wheelers, why people buy? Because they find that it is easier to take and bypass the rules, and you can't follow a lane when the two-wheelers come just in front of you. You can't leave a space between two cars because somebody will come. Now, if I draw parallel with the Europe, nowadays micro-mobility is coming along in a big way there. You find people drive scooters, the kids play with that. Na? Those micro-mobility things, they are similar to two-wheelers which we have. They also come from anywhere and they jump. This micro-mobility is, I think, we should think about it, and we will be very closely monitoring how the regulations come for such vulnerable road user in Europe. This micro-mobility thing is going to be a bigger challenge coming forward, because they will be affordable technology which will come in a long way.
Alok, you're lucky there aren't many teenagers in this crowd here. But if there were, those comments wouldn't be taken very lightly. But I completely agree. Why micro-mobility is different.
On a lighter note, just wanted to say to Mr. Ramanthan, the autonomous vehicles will solve all the problems.
Yeah, exactly. As long as there are no drivers. Thank you very much once again, ladies and gentlemen.